Maya Thompson wiped rain from the glass door of Willow and Main, her small neighborhood store, and leaned against the counter with a tired smile. The bell had already chimed 100 times today. Customers, deliveries, the soft hum of the city. But tonight, the sound felt different, urgent in a way she couldn't name. A scruffy shape pressed its wet nose against the threshold. Wow, she thought, a dog at this hour. He looked up at her with one golden eye and one brown, as if someone had painted a different sky in each. Maya's breath caught. She had never been a dog person by profession, but something in his steady, tired gaze unspooled the tightness in her chest. Without thinking, she set down the evening's ledger and opened the door. The dog slipped inside like he belonged, shaking off rain and settling his paws on the mat as if the store had always been his. Maya draped an old towel over him and laughed softly, a sound that tasted like relief. She named him Thin because his arrival felt like the end of a long, wandering tide. Outside, the streetlights pooled amber on the pavement, and for the first time that week, the store felt less lonely. Little did Maya know that this small, quiet choice, letting a stray warm his bones in her shop, would ripple farther than she could imagine. Something inside her shifted. The night suddenly felt safer indeed.
The next few weeks unfolded like a gentle rhythm. Every morning, Finn waited by the store door, tail thumping softly as Maya arrived with her coffee and a croissant. She'd laugh as he trotted behind her, his paws clicking on the wooden floorboards, inspecting every corner of the shop as if guarding it. Customers adored him, especially the kids from the nearby school who stopped by for candy after class. Finn became the store's little heartbeat, and somehow Maya found herself smiling more than she had in years. But beneath that warmth, life outside those walls was quietly unraveling. Maya had opened Willow and Main 3 years ago with dreams of building something meaningful. It wasn't just a store. It was her late father's dream revived, a tribute to the man who taught her how to believe in small-town kindness. Yet the numbers on her ledger told a cruel story. Sales were dropping, rent was climbing. A new franchise supermarket had opened 2 blocks down, and its neon glow seemed to pull away every passing customer. One chilly evening, Maya sat in the dim light of her office, staring at the unpaid bills spread across the desk. Her chest tightened with dread. How long could she keep pretending everything was fine? She sighed, running her hands through her hair. Finn, lying beside her, lifted his head and let out a low whine, as if he could feel the weight pressing on her shoulders. "I'm trying, buddy. I really am." The next morning, a notice appeared taped to her window. Final warning, rent overdue. Her heart sank. She peeled it off quickly before customers arrived, but the shame lingered like a bruise. Throughout the day, her smile faltered, her laughter came out forced, and even Finn's playful nudges couldn't lighten her mood. Then came the night everything almost fell apart. It was past closing, the street outside nearly empty, wind sweeping discarded leaves across the sidewalk. Maya had stayed late to tally the week's sales, dishearteningly low again. She heard Finn growl softly, his ears perked toward the back door. "Relax, boy," she murmured, but her voice trembled. The growl deepened. Suddenly, the handle jiggled. Maya froze. Someone was outside. Before she could react, the door creaked open and a man stepped in, hood pulled low, movements quick and jittery. Her pulse spiked. "Store's closed," she managed to say, her voice shaking. He didn't answer. Instead, he slammed the door behind him and moved toward the register. Panic surged through her. She tried to back away, but her legs felt heavy, glued to the spot. Finn barked, sharp and fierce. The intruder flinched, startled by the sudden noise, but kept coming. "Quiet that mutt!" he snapped, pulling something shiny from his pocket. a small knife glinting under the fluorescent light. Maya's breath caught. Her hands trembled as she raised them. "Please, just take the money." Finn stepped between them, growling louder now, hackles raised, his entire body trembling with protective energy. The intruder hesitated, clearly unnerved, but before he could retreat, Finn lunged, teeth flashing. The sound was raw, primal. The intruder stumbled backwards, knocking into a shelf, jars shattering around him. He cursed and bolted out the back door, disappearing into the alley. Maya stood frozen, the knife still glinting on the floor. Finn limped slightly, his breathing heavy, but his eyes stayed on her, alert and steady. Tears welled in her eyes as she knelt beside him, her hands shaking. "Oh, Finn, you saved me." Outside, the wind howled through the empty street. Inside, the store was silent except for the sound of her heart pounding and the soft, rhythmic pant of the dog who'd just risked everything for her. That night, Maya realized the depth of what she'd gained. She'd found a stray, yes, but maybe, just maybe, he'd found her too.
The next morning, sunlight streamed through the cracked blinds of Maya's small apartment above the store. Finn lay curled up near her bed, his paw bandaged where glass had cut him during the scuffle. She knelt beside him, brushing his fur gently, and whispered, "You're my hero, you know that?" He blinked at her, that mismatched gaze steady and full of quiet understanding. Maya smiled, though her throat tightened with emotion. She called the vet later that day, but Finn wouldn't let her out of sight, even for a second. Every time she moved toward the door, his tail thumped anxiously against the floor, as if he feared losing her. Word spread quickly through the neighborhood about what had happened. The local paper ran a small story titled, "Stray Dog Foils Robbery at Local Store." Customers who hadn't visited in months began stopping by, leaving treats and kind words for Finn. Someone even brought him a little medal from a pet shop that read, "Bravest Boy." Maya's heart swelled every time she looked at him. Her shop, once fading into obscurity, suddenly felt alive again. People came not just for the items she sold, but for the story that hung in the air. The story of a woman and the stray who'd become her guardian angel. But even with the attention, the numbers still didn't add up. Bills piled higher, and though her heart was lighter, her mind raced at night with the same question: how much longer can I keep this place open? She sat at the counter one afternoon, chin resting in her hands, staring through the window as rain began to fall. Outside, Finn sat proudly on his mat by the door, watching the street as if guarding the world beyond it. A soft laugh escaped her lips. "You don't even know, do you? You think this place will last forever." The door chimed. A woman in a long gray coat entered, clutching a leash with a small dog tugging excitedly at the end. Her smile was warm, her accent refined. "You must be Maya. I have heard quite a bit about your hero." Maya nodded shyly. "Yes, that's Finn. He's something special." The woman knelt, letting Finn sniff her hand. "He certainly is. I run a small nonprofit that trains rescue dogs for trauma support. We could use a heart like his. Would you ever consider partnering with us? Maybe hold weekend events here, community outreach, small fundraisers, that kind of thing." Maya blinked, caught off guard. I don't know much about that, but sure, I'd love to help." The woman's smile deepened. "You'd be surprised how healing stories like yours can be for others." When she left, Maya stood by the window, watching her walk away. Finn nudged her leg and looked up, as if asking, "What happens next?" Maya knelt, pressing her forehead to his. "Maybe this isn't just about saving the store, huh? Maybe this is about something bigger." Outside, the rain softened to a drizzle. Inside, surrounded by shelves and warmth, Maya felt a flicking of hope
she hadn't felt in a long, long time. The little store that once felt like her burden was beginning to feel like her purpose again. And at the heart of it all was a stray dog who'd walked in on a stormy night and changed everything. The following weeks bloomed with unexpected color. Maya's partnership with the rescue organization became a spark that reignited not just her business, but her spirit. Every Saturday, the store transformed into a small community hub, its aisles lined with people sharing coffee, laughter, and stories about second chances. Finn became the star of every event, sitting proudly beside a donation box labeled "For the Forgotten Paws." Children adored him. Elderly neighbors stopped by simply to sit and pet him. And Maya, who once stood behind her counter counting pennies, now stood at the center of something much deeper, a sense of belonging she hadn't known she was missing. Still, the true breakthrough didn't come in a rush of noise or applause. It arrived quietly, like the whisper of a familiar melody. One afternoon, a teenage boy hovered near the entrance, shoulders hunched, eyes downcast. Maya recognized him, one of the local kids who used to sneak candy from her shelves. He hesitated before stepping forward. "Hey, is that the dog that saved you?" She smiled softly. "That's him. His name's Finn." The boy knelt down and patted Finn's head. For a moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of fear, of struggle, of survival. Then he looked up. "I read about you guys. My mom, she said people like you make this town better." Maya blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in his voice. "Tell your mom she's the kind one for saying that." He nodded, then dropped a crumpled $5 bill into the donation jar. "For the dogs," he muttered, before hurrying out. Maya watched him leave, her throat tightening. She glanced down at Finn, who gazed back with those mismatched eyes that seemed to see right through her. She whispered, almost to herself, "See what you started?" That night, as the shop lights dimmed, she stood by the window, looking out at the quiet street where she'd once felt so alone. The reflection staring back wasn't the same woman who had nearly given up. She was still tired, yes, but her tiredness was different now. It carried purpose. Finn patted over and rested his head against her knee. She felt the warmth of him, steady and grounding. The world outside was still uncertain, but she no longer feared it. Maya finally understood. Finn hadn't just saved her life that night. He'd given her a reason to keep living it. She whispered, almost to herself, "Maybe that's what love really is, something that shows up when you least expect it and refuses to leave." Finn's tail thumped once, as if agreeing. And for the first time in a long while, Maya felt completely, quietly whole. Months passed, and Willow and Maine no longer felt like just a small town store. It had become a heartbeat for the community, a place where people came not only to shop, but to feel something real. The faded "for rent" signs that once threatened her windows were replaced by cheerful posters for adoption drives, charity bake sales, and community nights. Every morning, Finn trotted to his usual spot by the counter, his mismatched eyes following Maya as she opened the register. The way he watched her, calm, content, loyal, reminded her that miracles didn't always come crashing in. Sometimes they walked through your door on a rainy night. One cold December afternoon, Maya stood by the display window, watching snowflakes drift past the streetlights. Her phone buzzed, a message from the woman at the rescue organization. "Thanks to your efforts, we've placed 24 dogs in loving homes this month. You and Finn have changed lives, Maya." She smiled, blinking back tears. "No," she murmured. "They changed mine." A soft bark pulled her back. Finn was looking at her expectantly, tail wagging as if asking what came next. Maya knelt, gently brushing his fur, You know, buddy, I used to think this store was my purpose, but it's us, our story, that became something bigger. You showed me that love doesn't have to be grand to be life-saving. Sometimes it's just steady. Finn pressed his head against her shoulder, and she laughed through her tears. Outside, the wind howled softly, but inside, everything felt warm, safe, and alive. That evening, as she locked up, Maya looked once more at the sign above the door, Willow and Maine, and felt gratitude bloom deep within her. She turned off the lights, leaving only the soft glow from the street outside. Come on, hero, let's go home. As they stepped into the snow, Finn paused to glance back at the store, then looked up at her, eyes gleaming like two small beacons. And in that quiet, perfect moment, Maya realized something that would stay with her forever. The smallest act of kindness can create ripples that outlast any storm. Sometimes it's the smallest actions that echo the loudest in the heart.
So if this story touched your heart, take a moment to think about how kindness often begins with something small. A single decision, a gentle act, a moment of compassion. Maya didn't know that letting a drenched stray inside her store would one day save her life. And maybe that's the quiet magic of life itself. We never truly know how the love we give will find its way back to us. If you felt something today, hope, warmth, maybe even a tear, don't let it fade. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that goodness still exists, that loyalty can come from the most unexpected places, and that love, in its simplest form, can change everything. Hit the like button if you believe in second chances. Subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this one. And tell us in the comments about an act of kindness that changed your life. Because in the end, every story shared keeps the world just a little bit brighter and every heart a little bit closer.